You're a loan officer who's looking to deepen your relationship with lenders, and you want to learn from somebody who's built a real estate team with over 200 agents who walks you through the systems and the conversations that he has with the 6 lenders on his preferred lender team. Join this conversation with George Laughton. He has been ranked as high as the 6th ranked team in the country. He's done a few $billion worth of production in the real estate space, and his wisdom here on how you can be better. And then more importantly, and in addition, the example he gives of a brand new agent who in his first month did 44 open houses and got 6 transactions as a result. This is not just a conversation for you as a loan officer, but it's a conversation for you to share with your agents to determine the kind of relationship you want to have in the future. Because the bottom line is this one's a gem, and I can't wait to get your feedback. All right, welcome everyone to another episode of the Loan Officer Mastermind. I am Todd Bookspan, founder of Win by Noon, and I'm so excited for today's guest, George Laughton, the founder of Everyplace Realty, co-founder of the Laughton Team, a legend in Arizona real estate, expanding around. But before I bring on George and do a formal introduction, I've got to bring on my co-host here, Deborah Byrd, Plug and Play SM. How are you, ma'am?
Thank you, Todd. I am great. Football is back. We've got fantasy drafts underway, and y'all know me as a Cowboys fan. At least this is the time of year where hope is still undefeated. But it did make me think, for those tuning in, if your partners or clients were to create their own mortgage fantasy draft team, would you be on it? And why would they choose you? And so thinking of first round draft picks, this is a perfect segue for Dave Savage. What's up, Dave?
What's up? So I'm a first round draft pick, huh?
You are my first round draft pick, buddy.
All right, I'll take that. No, I'm super excited about this conversation we have. The way I think of George from the research I've done, everything Todd's told me is, this is an entrepreneur. This is someone who, yes, he's been an incredibly successful real estate operator, but he's an entrepreneur and he really sees where the puck is going in real estate. And he's been there early, just hearing some of the things that George has done. He's got to some things really early in their things. So I'm looking forward to hearing where the puck is going. What's up, George?
What's up, dude? How are you?
Good, good. Well, Todd, you want to kind of do the formalities and kick this thing off?
Yeah, I mean, there's so many things I could say about George. So the Laughton Team is a legend in the Phoenix, Arizona marketplace. Over 200 agents, has done over $1 billion of production. I think multiple years. George, you can correct me if I'm wrong. Was ranked number 6 by Real Trends. A couple things that are unique about George is he was the first person when you saw, I don't know if it was New York Times or USA Today, where they talked about Zillow pushing off Zillow cash offers. I know it no longer exists, but the person's sign in the yard was George standing there with a Laughton Team sign. He was early on with Zillow Flex. He's definitely an insider there. But ultimately, what they've kind of nailed, I mean, George is someone that when I have the opportunity to have lunch with George and really just pick his brain about where he sees the future heading, George has been there. He recently opened up Everyplace Realty. So I'm excited to hear what's going on with that. Love the name, by the way, George. I don't know how no one else already had that one, Everyplace. But I don't know what I missed, but hopefully that's a great introduction for someone that I look up to in this business. I consider a friend. Welcome, George Laughton.
Yeah, well, thank you, man. That's an amazing introduction and nothing but a ton of gratitude, Todd. I mean, you and I have been working together and obviously in the same markets for, 15, 20 years. I think you were the man that introduced me to my first business coach, and I would say like my quasi business coach along the way too. So I really appreciate everything over
Coach
the
Bill
years.
Hart, another guest on this show.
Bill, yeah. Coach Bill was my first business coach at 27 years old, 28 years old. Todd made that introduction. I actually still use a lot of Toddisms and Bill Hartisms along the way in my day-to-day work. So one of them is highest and best use of time. I remember you saying that to me when I was pre-30. And I was like, and I still say it to this day. So is that the highest and best use of your time, George? I'm like, yeah, you're right, Todd. Probably not.
I'm glad I can be there. And so, I really liked it that you sort of talked about titling this Speed, Trust, and Attachment, winning partnerships with high volume teams. And I think every time we've had a guest on here, and I don't think we've ever had anyone on who's done the volume or built the organization that you've built, that's always where loan officers want to start is how do I get in a relationship with somebody like you? And my normal answer is you don't, but where do you want to start on that?
Yeah, I think that was when you mentioned the audience. I was like, how can I bring value to this group? I thought that was one way in particular that I could bring some sort of value. Talking through what is table stakes today, which I would have said like my standards list for a loan officer 5, 10 years ago, which is, do you have a good suite of products? Can you get the deal closed, right? Do you help with some credit repair? Do you not put me in a car with somebody that's not going to get pre-approved, right? Those were kind of like, do you close fast? Are you a good technician? I think the best LOs out there are the ones that are amazing technicians. But it goes beyond that, right? So when I look to partner with a loan officer or a mortgage company, I am looking for a partner, like a all out business partner for us to strategize and theorize and to come up with tactics to actually get more people across the finish line. So there's a number of ways that we do that, but we actually sit with our loan officers, we sit with our preferred lender on a quarterly basis and just come up with some targets. We actually run like a EOS model. I don't know if you guys are familiar with EOS model style like meeting, and we come up with our goal, what it is. We have 3 strategies and then tactics behind those strategies. And they're bought into those systems and those processes with us, and it really feels more like a true partnership.
If you guys aren't familiar with that, it's a book called Traction by Gino Wickman, where it talks through the EOS model. And we've had a lot of other guests on here who operate that way, including Shayla Gifford. So if you're not familiar with it and you're looking for a way to run your business, that might be a great way. So I would love if you give an example. So like in your recent quarterly sit down,
Yeah.
what were the ideas that you came up with? Do you know?
So one that we realized, like one of the biggest things is our LO and agent relationship. So how do you actually track whether they have good relationships with the loan officer? So we have six loan officers that cover our team of 200. They are regionally based, but they're not tied singularly to an office. So we have 5 offices here in Phoenix, but we separate East and West. So 3 loan officers in the East, 3 loan officers in the West. Why I like 3 is it's a diversification of personalities too, because I'm also trying to match people with their people, right? So the gregarious DID agent probably wants to be with a gregarious ID loan officer, where they probably need an operator more, but they're not going to really build a great relationship. And my operators, they want a really good systems oriented LO, right? And so I want to be able to match those up. And so having that stable of LOs is helpful to have. And so that's one of the things, like, so we look at relationship index, which is strange to say, but we actually have a spreadsheet that has a picture of every single one of our agents. And then how we rate the relationship is, have you met with them one-on-one? Have you taken a transaction all the way from start to finish with the LO? And then what can we do as a team to help facilitate that? Honor the partnership that we have. These LOs and mortgage companies do a lot for our business. And so I'll reach out, like today is my day to look at some of that relationship index and be the glue that pulls them together. I was talking with Todd today, and I thought it'd be great for the 2 of you to get together and have a coffee. He's got some great ideas on your social media. There always has to be a value add of some kind. And so that's it. So the relationship index, helping increase that and encourage that. The second thing we came up with, and this was actually probably had built more traction than the relationship index did, was we know that agents love getting connections or leads. I hate the term leads because nobody dreamt of being a lead one day. So it's like, how do you give them more connections? And so we have a great, huge database of people. And there's great systems out there now that rejuvenate old, tired, nurtured leads. One of them, 2 that we use, Fellow. So Fellow, Ryan Young, he's got an AI system called, it does a great job of raising up hand raisers again. So we've done 50,000 contacts in there with partnership with our mortgage company. These can be old RDC leads, they can be PPC leads, they can be automated value. What we do is we actually take them out, we change the source. So it would be like Bookspan solutions, and we bring it back in, right? And so as a hand raiser comes in, even if it was a 4-year-old RDC lead, now I'm building this like mind share that Bookspan is involved with our support and building more connections with agents. So it's taking those old tire leads, building some of that connection in just through renaming the source, and then also attaching our loan officers to those. Like, oh, here's a great opportunity for somebody that's talking about mortgage, that's talking about getting qualified. Let's make sure that we honor the commitment and we give the loan officer an at-bat on this one for a pre-qual.
Hey, real quick, One of the things I'm hearing from top producing loan officers that are winning in this market is they're helping realtors optimize opportunities like what you're calling out in the database. But one that just seems to be coming up more and more, and I just love your thoughts on it, are first-time sellers, because they bought 3 to 7 years ago, they've got equity, they got a great return on that investment. And so I'm seeing, in fact, I interviewed the number one loan officer in the state of Michigan, Matt Adler, who's going to do like 250 million in production this year. And I'm like, what's the biggest opportunity? He's like, first time sellers and
Yeah.
collaborating with realtors. Any thoughts on that, George?
Yeah, I love that. And I actually, it's almost easier in our database to create hand raisers, especially with like Fellow and Felix and some of these AI ISAs to pull in seller hand raisers. Now, an LO traditionally goes, what do I want a seller lead for? How am I going to help you? And so giving them that playbook has been super helpful in adding value to our agents. And so when we have a hand raiser that is, a first time home seller, how does the LO provide value? There are some really great tools out there, or you can give them access to really great valuation tools. So whether that's House Canary, whatever it you may have as an LO, but how can you provide more value on a seller driven connection than on a buyer driven connection? And so that's where I think the LO has to get creative and start thinking strategically on it. It's just how do you marry the LO into those? And we found valuations is probably the best, helping them with, the listing presentation content. And it's getting easier and easier too with like AI to build out a really unique property valuation. So supporting the agents in that as well.
So for all the loan officers listening to this, guys, this is a massive win for you because if you can find a first-time seller, help the realtor get a listing and a sell, like, do I really need to explain the value of that?
Yeah.
And you're getting a loan. And if you're really running the playbooks that we teach, you can get multiple loans from this strategy. So there's a lot of content. Listen to that interview I did with Matt Adler a couple of weeks ago. It's on our YouTube channel. And it was titled How to Win with First-Time Sellers. And he showed how a loan officer is helping realtors do that. He even shared some scripts on how the realtor and the loan officer are collaborating. So love that,
Yeah, I
George.
love that. Cost of waiting, I think, has been another good one that our loan
Boom.
officers, the math of that. Yeah.
The math of pre-qualifying a consumer is a commodity. And
Yeah.
every loan officer can do it. The machine can do it. AI can do it. But the math of how to buy before you sell, the math of, oh, you want to wait. Well, let's look at that. What do you think rates are going to do? What do you think values are going to do? And then show them strategies as a human. The math of affordability, the math of buy before you sell, the math of cost of waiting, the math of rent versus own. That, by the way, George, tell me if you agree, that is how a
That's
loan
the
officer creates a competitive advantage.
That's the value for sure. One of the best attended workshops I had with my power partner, with my lender, was that cost of waiting calculation. But at the end of it, you show them how to do it, but then you go, oh, and by the way, we do it for you, right? And so they want it done for them. But the loan officer's got to show their area of expertise. And it's almost like giving a FISBO all of the contracts and everything that they need to get a transaction done. And then they go at the end of it, they go, okay, wait, I don't want to do any of this. It's the same thing with the loan officer and the cost of waiting and the strategy. I don't think a lot of agents think of that as a financing conversation when you're talking to a home seller that's sitting on, a 3.5% interest rate, but it is.
Okay, I have to ask, you work with 6 power partners. What would it take for an advisor to catch your eye or like to crack that nut and even have, sorry for the language, this is the Deb is this for you. But like, how do we get your attention and even get on the radar to be like, put me in the game? How do I be number 7 or the backup QB of one of your 6 power partners? Like, what would it actually take that would work?
Yeah.
Because so many ask, is there a magic DM? Is there, an email, a class I could host? Like, I want to get in front of, say, this agent or maybe one of the agents out of your 200. But they also have in the back of their mind, like, but they already have their go-to person. Why would they ever choose me?
Yeah. I think the ones that I would meet with do have that like as annoying as a text message or an email or a LinkedIn message might be, that consistency and that tenacity is something I want to see, right? And so the more that that comes across, the more that I'm going to notice you. But at the end of the day, when I meet with you, when I talk with you, we better be able to talk about what is your unique value proposition. And that, Dave, as we're talking about this, like first time seller strategy, that is a unique selling proposition. How do I help you rejuvenate dead parts of your database? How do we partner on those things and continue to grow? Like find the hole or the part of my business where you're going to help me grow that I just may not have time to deal with. That to me, if somebody said that, I'd be like, hey, I can help you create, you know, 20 new appointments out of your old dead database if you just give me 10 minutes of your time. Let's talk about that and the strategies and tactics that I have there. Like I would take that appointment probably 9 times out of 10.
And is there a platform of choice like LinkedIn versus Instagram, Facebook, email, video, text, or all of them?
Gosh, I would text is probably the best, but I would say outside of that, Instagram seems to be my other, DMing through IG seems to be the next place that I spend time looking at stuff. So those two would probably be best for me. Everything else, email, LinkedIn is probably going to get shuffled out.
So George, I want to make sure every loan officer listening to this like gets the memo. Consistency matters to someone like George. Multi-channel messaging matters to someone like George. In his particular case, sounds like the best way to get him is Instagram and text, but that may not be the mix for every realtor. I mean, I can assure you every realtor has text and every realtor is using a lot of text. So it's probably in everybody's communication stack, but it can be overused. It could be you could go from being a value to being obnoxious. Could you speak to that, George? Where is the kind of there's constructive consistency and delivering value, and then there's unconstructive where you're like losing my trust and you're being annoying. What are some of the lines?
I think the vague text messages that are just, spammed out, it tend to get actually, hit the spam button and block them. It is the ones that are, clearly, for me, clearly understand, have done some research, understand my business, and come with something that is of value, right? So in that text message or in that, it is explaining what they can do to help our business. That is not table stakes, right? Like it's not, hey, I close deals really fast. I've got this great program that, down payment assistance program. I'm like, yes, I get all that. What are we going to do to help grow our businesses together? That's what I want to see.
So the formula is show me, you know me, and an authentic, doesn't look like an AI message or a spam message, and give me one idea. By the way, do you agree with that? Like if they're like, I could do this and I can do this, I give you three, like give me one unique idea with show me, you know me, and then do that consistently over time. And I'm gonna probably take a meeting with you at some point.
Yeah, I'm gonna give it a shot.
All right, cool.
Yeah, I think that's a great
Crack
formula.
that nut.
Yeah, cracked it.
Are any of them using video, George? Any video messages coming through to you?
Just you, Todd. I think, man. Yeah.
Oh, Todd.
Hey,
no, I don't. Honestly, I don't get a ton of video messages.
Yeah.
So there's something, like test it, guys. And some people, by the way, I know there are realtors that, I have to like click and listen to the video. And there are other shows like, hey, I really like that. That was cool. So just remember, not everybody's the same. Try different multi-channel messaging. I don't want to totally go off this. How does a loan officer, win with realtors? So if anybody's listening to this, you got a question for George, put it in chat. But I really have two things where I want to hear your vision on it. One of them is this: that you named your company Anywhere Real Estate, and I am finding more loan officers.
Everyplace.
What's
Everyplace,
that?
yeah.
Everyplace. Everyplace. Sorry, but
that's right.
Metaphorically,
Anywhere sold to Compass. So
yeah,
I would have liked to got that, but
yeah, I don't know. I think yours is pretty bright, but I'm finding more local loan officers that aren't just local in one place, and their map is expanding in order to hit their numbers. And then, we have autonomous cars, which you and I were talking about in prep. Was that part of your strategy is that local real estate's becoming broader, or like, what are your thoughts on that? And what was going through your head when you came up with that name?
I think so. First, I'll give credit where credit's due. So, naming a company these days, especially with national aspirations and gain and everything, like what I have found out is naming is much harder than it actually thought it was going to be, and it took much longer. We worked with a company called Thousand Watt. If you don't know
Oh,
Thousand, we had a list of probably 300 different names. I understood it from what is so. There's two things, like what is available and what is brandable. I understood it from what is an available position, and I kind of,
and
and unfortunately, whatever I liked, Mark shot down and said was not brandable. And so this took us about a 90-day journey to actually land on Everyplace. And it was one that Mark had put up there on our board. And it sat on there for 30 days. And he goes, George, I just want you to revisit this one. Revisit this. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to put together some marketing in the wild for you so you can see it. And when he did that, I go, oh, I get it. Yeah, that's not my side of the brain. So aesthetics, but when he did it and we talked about what it meant, so the idea of Every Place isn't about the brokerage being every place. It's about helping the consumer through their real estate journey. So from their initial, like if you're, a home renter, how do you move into that first home, that starter home? And then we want to be throughout that journey as you move up, downsize, whatever the case may be, your first investment property. So we want to be a part of that journey for every place in your real estate cycle. And then we talked about what happens inside the the walls of a home is really what it speaks to. Every first step, every family dinner, every laugh that occurs, every hug that occurs in a home, that's Every Place. So that was from the brain of Mark Davison and Thousand Watt. So I wish I could take credit for it, but they did an amazing job with that.
And make sure you guys follow him on social media. He is absolutely brilliant, behind
Mhm.
some of the most successful marketing and branding exercises in real estate. So
Yeah.
yeah, and a lot of great
The
content out there.
the dose, I think they put it out bi-weekly, just a email. It's such a good read every single time. So well done.
Agreed. Agreed. You brought up another point, which was what I wanted to hear from you, because it sounds like the way you're building this brand is helping consumers almost in vertically integrated ways. And one of the trends we're seeing at Mortgage Coach is we're seeing more realtors doing part of the mortgage experience. So we're still seeing a lot of the loan officer managing the loan manufacturing and transaction, but you're seeing more realtors get in the loan business. You're seeing loan officers get in the real estate business. You're seeing what I call the captive the wealth team, where people are integrating financial services to help people achieve home ownership with financial freedom. What are your thoughts on that? Is that something, one, you're doing? And then two, do you think that's going to be a big trend in real estate and mortgage?
Yeah, where the puck's going for sure is the integrated transaction. You see the big players doing that, whether it's Zillow, ZHL, and their closing services, Redfin, Rocket, there's everybody's going that direction. I think you have to be thoughtful on it in order to be competitive in the coming years. And so we've thought about that vertical integration. Hence the reason why, even changing our lead sources to have some sort of tie to lending as well. We see that as where everything is moving. So how can you integrate mortgage in further upstream and title escrow, whatever services that they can provide further upstream as well too. And then creating this integrated transaction, essentially your team throughout that funnel. So like not attaching an LO once they become a hand raiser or want to get pre-qualified, but attaching them much earlier in the journey. So that we think is key. And it's something we've invested a lot in as well too.
And I don't know, have we answered some of the questions that are coming in on chat,
Well,
Todd?
I was going to jump in. So Eric Daniels is here. So we had Eric on maybe about a month ago, and he talked really about authenticity and how he is building community. So we'll throw in the show notes a link to that episode. But he's talking about Zillow and ZHL, Zillow Home Loans. For those of you who don't know what that is, right? That's such a tight connection for all the big flex teams out there. So he's kind of asking, is there hope for other future LOs? I think probably there's two ways on that one, right? To target flex teams to do the business that's not the ZHL business, and then also just to maybe go after teams that aren't Zillow flex teams because there's fewer and fewer in each market. At least that's my perception.
So obviously, Zillow is a great partner of ours as well as ZHL, and giving the consumer choice is important to us too. What we did with our, power partner, non-ZHL power partner, is I think you have to quit thinking them as a threat and start thinking of them as an opportunity. And so it's changing that mindset of the LO and how can you work together with them. Good partner, great LOs there too. But they're centralized lending. They don't have that in-market presence. And, as we were talking about how an LO provides that unique value sometimes can be missed in a centralized model. And so you having that unique value proposition is what's going to set you apart. And actually, we've seen really good synergies between both lender partners, ZHL and our current partner, with turndowns, right? ZHL can only do so much. And so it's been a good, healthy relationship and balance between the two. And so while there might be a hit, overall on what your other preferred partner can take, I think in the long run, it makes the pie much bigger.
Yeah, that's been our team's experience because we've got a big relationship with a large Zillow Flex team, and yeah, they can't do everything. It's Dave always used to say, what can't Amazon do, right? Right? What can't Zillow do? And so I do think it's an opportunity if you as a loan officer can understand, right? It's about curiosity, right? You have to be able to ask someone like George, hey, what is it they're not doing? Or ask the agents on George's team, what is it that they're not doing, and figure out, are you truly an expert? Can you add value in those areas? Because ultimately that's going to be your opportunity. That's the door cracking open, and you got to be able to push your full body through that door.
Yeah, agreed. I mean, that's like the human to human stuff is where you're gonna beat them, every time. And so, yeah, sitting in an open house, being at a team meeting, it goes a long way for building connection and attachment.
So George, I was at the Housing Wire AI Summit last week in Dallas, and first time there were both mortgage and real estate leaders on stage there. And obviously AI is changing humanity, changing industries. I've been asking a lot of people about describe the loan officer of 2030. And I'd like to switch it on you and describe the realtor of 2030 and what might be different and what will be the themes among the most successful future-proof realtors in 2030. What are your thoughts?
Yeah, I think it looks pretty different than it does today. I don't know if I have necessarily a crystal ball to it, but the best agents right now, where they're leaning into AI, and the best team leaders where they're leaning into AI is in a number of places, but where we're seeing the biggest impacts is really utilizing the agentic AI, whether that's somebody attached to your database. So we work with another company called House Whisper, and they have their AI agentic FUB. So it's connected to our CRM FUB support called Nora. And so post appointment, they can take advantage of that windshield time and actually disposition from the appointment exactly what happened. Nora can go into the CRM, update stages, update notes. And so the best ones are using it to have really great database hygiene today. That's what I'm already seeing. Now, of our 200 agents, the ones that have adopted it are probably about 20% really that have adopted it in a significant way. We're seeing it from a team leader perspective. Business insights become much easier if you create that great data lake of information. If you can take in your transaction management, your CRM information, your financials, and plug all that into some sort of data lake. And now dashboarding and the information and the insights into your business becomes so much more accessible. And so that has been super helpful for us. I think, too, making us better communicators. And so the best agents are using it too to keep files and communications with their clients. I use it with my team members and leadership. Every coaching call now is done on Zoom rather than in person. So we can actually keep a good digital file on everything that we're doing. You create great skills to be able to be a great coach too. I think it's helped me be a better leader and hold people accountable and create clear paths to what they're trying to achieve. And then remember all of that, which was hard for me to do and take good notes in the past. And so the agent of the future is still going to be very human to human, and they're going to be unlocked to be able to stop worrying about the things like database hygiene. Contract to closing is going to be much more automated and systematic. Their clients are going to get much more comfortable, I think, chatting with AI and working with AI. We're already seeing that with some of the AI calling that we do through Fellow and House Whisper. These clients or potential clients are having some of our calls with AI are lasting 20, 30, 40 minutes long, which is shocking to me.
I'm shocked.
Yes.
Wow.
In that 3 to 5 minute range. But man, people will have a full on long conversation with AI. And so it's interesting to see. So yeah, that's why I think the agent of the future, I mean, they're really leaning in, obviously. And then it's up to us as team leaders and brokers to give them those tools and support that they need.
I love that. I got a few new things. I'm getting ready to write another article next week because this Monday I released, and I put a link to it and chat everybody, the Loan Officer 2030. And the one thing that's super the same, whether it's a mortgage or real estate, is that when they're an advisor, they're not just a transaction coordinator today. As George mentioned, the transactions being more and more automated, both the loan manufacturing and the real estate transactional, but they're great leaders to humans and to AI agents. Like they're very adept and experienced at managing humans and managing agents. So love that, George. If anything else comes to mind before we run out of time, please share it. I love that. You're on mute, Todd.
Oh, I was just saying, Deborah, you're up.
I love what you said with the upfront piece, leveraging AI in your database. And I'm thinking a little bit about from the loan officer perspective. If I want to bring more value, I'm still back at the how do I earn the business? And maybe it's being the backup and, building a relationship with the turn downs with your Zillow team. But are there anything else that, say, your current partners are doing that have really wowed you from a business builder, like beyond like a signed maybe lead agreement, but like what other things are they doing to help build and grow as the partner with you that most loan officers never even like think about or even offer?
So their network, when I think hiring becomes one of the other advantages too. They've got a broad network as well of professionals. And so we're always hiring one or two individuals. And so that's always been a key support for us is who do I go to? I go to, the president of the mortgage company. I go to the president of our title company, and I get them to push that out as well too. I think the other thing that we look for in our vendors is access to the other employees. Right? So we want to do, if I'm your number one partner, I also want to, if your assistant's buying a home, I want to be able to support in that too. And so how can we build synergies with that, especially like title companies, they have 140, agents, but I also look at like HVAC companies. So when you're building those vendor connections can we get in front of the staff at all? Outside of that, I think some of the unique ways that our lenders, it really comes down to those strategies and tactics that we sit down with. Like it is a bi-weekly meeting that is run in a level 10 format. If you're not familiar with that, it's EOS, but like we have a very clear goal, strategies and tactics that we're all driving towards a common rock for that quarter, whether it's one-on-one meetings with our agents, whether it's getting integrated more into the first 90 days of newly onboarded agents, whether it's making sure that we nurture that relationship for people that offboard. Believe it or not, we have fairly high attrition on the team too. And so there's people that exit, but I want the LO to keep that relationship even after we leave. And so I think being a partner in that, taking the time and adding value in a meeting like that, where you come up with strategies and tactics, has been the biggest thing for our business, where we go, okay, well, this is what we're focusing on this quarter. We're going to move the needle on it. And here's what you're going to do. And here's what I'm going to do. And then we hold each other accountable to it. Has proven to be probably the biggest value.
Do you guys use Stretty or 90.io for your L10 meetings or no?
No, a Word doc with a dashboard at the top. Yeah.
Okay.
A Google Word doc or an actual old school Microsoft Word doc?
Google Doc. Yeah, Google Doc.
There we go. I was going to be like, come
Google
on,
Doc,
bro.
yeah.
You're not using Google Docs.
Doc. So yeah, it is try not to overcomplicate it.
Mhm.
Always start with a simple dashboard up top that the lender fills in before the meeting, and then we go over our rock review
Mhm.
and what strategies we move forward. Then we go through an issues list and we call it a wrap, and that's biweekly without fail. And it's probably been the best for the synergies between our businesses.
Yeah, I just want to double tap on the book Traction. I mean, if you're in mortgage and you've never read that book, or Scaling Up, with Vern Harnish, you got to first of all read them both. I mean, my career was called the Rockefeller Habits back in the day, and now it's Scaling Up. But that was where I went from successful top producer to really scaling and building a business. The first time I interviewed Shant Benoshian, the number one loan officer in America, it became very clear he was not a loan officer. He was a mortgage entrepreneur that ran the processes in Traction. And it's all about execution, guys. So
Yeah.
it's just a must read for anyone that wants to scale and really build a business. And I just keep hearing it in your language.
Yeah,
Like,
I'll second that. I
become
mean,
one
obviously
with that.
there's books that that transform and just become part of your internal language, as you were saying. Like
Right.
Traction is definitely one of those. Four Disciplines of Execution is one of those. Like some of those books by EOS, and we've done it for so long that definitely don't follow the original. Like we've made it our own. But to sit down quarterly with your lender partner and actually work through those, and then bi-weekly from there, and then even annually, every October we get out, we do an offsite with our lender, and we talk about what our goal is for next year, and they're sharing that goal. So if it is to add 150 agents to the brokerage or the team, they understand what our overall mission is, and then we think through how they can support us on that as well too.
So just want to make sure I got that. So there's annual offsite, quarterly strategics.
Quarterly, so I'd probably say semi-annually now at this
Okay,
point.
semi-annually strategic.
We tried quarterly. It just gets quarters come fast these
Yeah,
days. It
it
feels
does.
like
And then
bi-weekly.
bi-weekly tactical, where we're going on your offsite. Like I've done offsites that are multi-day, like in this extraordinary place as a business. But when it comes to meeting with a lender partner, is it, like describe the venue? What is an offsite? What is the annual offsite looks like with the lender where you're including?
Yeah, generally it is. We get a conference room somewhere, or like this last one, we actually went up to Prescott, which is about an hour and a half north of Phoenix, because it's October times usually we start our annual planning, and we'll go up and there's a place there that just I forget what the heck it's called now, but they have this it's a barber shop, coffee, everything is kind of together. And then there's this big conference room up top, and we sit up there and we powwow whiteboard for a day. We stay the night. We have a nice dinner together. We wrap things up with our rocks for the year the next morning, and then we're out. Right. So it's one like full day, drive up, get up there, 9, 10 a.m. You spend the whole day in that conference room. We go have a nice dinner afterwards. We make sure that we wrap our rocks the next morning, and then we're back down the hill and getting to work.
George, is that separate from is that the whole Laughton team meeting and the lender just happens to be there, or is that a lender specific annual meeting?
Generally it's lender specific in that one. So we might piggyback that. We didn't do that last year, but we've done that in the past. But 2-3 days of planning kind of drains the brain a little bit, and you just end up settling on rocks. You're just like, no, I'm done. Yeah, that works. And so separating out we found is better, but having a good idea of direction where my business is going before I go into that meeting is always helpful. So while our team one will be early and our brokerage one will be early October, we might push the lender one and even the title escrow one to later in October or even early November before we do it.
So tell me if you agree with this. So top of the mountain, you spend a day at an inspiring location that's within an hour drive, and you have a meal together because there's just something that happens when you plan and break bread together. So that's top of the mountain. And then would it be safe to assume you could do like half day, like drive within 30 minutes of the most inspirational place that you could go, cool hotel, spend some time in the lobby, and then have a meal together? But like half day and meal together within that wouldn't be as good, but those would be two recommendations you'd give to lenders if they really want to have a strategic business relationship. That's what it sounds like.
Yeah, early days, it looked like when it was us planning with lender, we would just use the conference room at the title company. And when it was time to plan with our title company, we just get a conference room at the lender. And so, yeah, those early days. And then, sometimes it was top golf afterwards or pickleball, and then I'll go home that night. So depending on how big operation is or how big the goals are, yeah, that it could be as simple as a half day or 2 or 3 hour meeting. What we've always done though is I've always brought in a facilitator in all of them from the very beginning. So that EOS facilitator has been helpful for us in allowing me to get out of the minutia and running it as an agenda and be able to think. And the same thing with the LO, right? When you're the ones running the meeting, it's hard to have the inspiration and the thoughtfulness of what you're trying to accomplish. And so I would recommend, even if it's just a note taker, somebody there helping to facilitate, keep on agenda, ask good questions. I think that's money well spent.
What would be the budget for someone to, high low, to have a EOS facilitator for half day and full day?
Yeah, my EOS facilitator has been with me now for 9 years. So,
Wow.
so I don't remember what we paid him early on, but he's been upwards of, 10, 12K a month in helping manage our leadership and support us. I think today, like if I was a newer, if I'm an LO and working with a smaller real estate team, somewhere in that neighborhood of $500 is probably going to get you a good integrator facilitator. And if you actually search it, there's some out there. I know we have a few companies here locally that have those integrator facilitators that can help you with it.
All right, so let's put a bow on EOS. So if someone's here thinking this is really cool, I want to start doing it for myself, for my team, and I want to propose it for a partner that I work with, they just start with reading the book, and then what other steps?
Yeah, I mean, retraction. It's, I don't think it's necessarily you have to have a facilitator. I would start, that's essentially your operating system, right? Entrepreneurial operating system. Start running your meetings that way, become familiar with it and commit to it for at least 2 to 3 years. So the meeting structure, the cadence, all of that, you can easily probably, facilitate yourself if you don't want to pay that outside one. So that's what I would do. I'd just be like, okay, I find the format, I take the PDFs, I make them my own and use a Google Doc or Notion. We use Notion in our real estate business, but not with our lender. It seems to be the best way to do it.
Do you guys have any other questions on EOS before I shift to sort of kind of attitude in the current market?
I think the biggest
Attitude in the
takeaway
market.
is just being intentional as a partner, even if you don't fully adopt the EOS model or method, but the intentionality behind working on the business together, not just in it from day to day of like, oh, like status updates. Like, are you carving out time with your VIP partners to look for efficiencies and how to grow the business together?
Yeah, I think that's really good. I think one thing to think about is understand when you expose yourself to these different philosophies and these different ideas, you're listening for clues so that you can then have a conversation on the level and the language that they're doing. No different than whatever world you're in from a coaching perspective, whether they're in the Tom Ferry ecosystem or they're in some other coaching ecosystem, is understanding what it is they're getting coached on and then coming alongside of them to support them is always a way to do it. I spent 3 days at the Tom Ferry Summit with 30 agents on a team because I wanted to learn alongside of them. It was a great opportunity for me to spend time, break bread, trade ideas, see what was interesting to them. And so just think about what's important to them and then how do you come alongside of it and support them, whether it's EOS or something else. All right, George. So we're talking to loan officers who feel like this last few years has kind of sucked in the mortgage business. And that's a general theme we hear when we talk to loan officers. But then Dave, Deborah, and I are hearing the loan officers who are just freaking crushing it. And I see the same thing going on in real estate. So what's your perspective and how is your team encouraging your agents? I didn't use the word motivating because I don't think you can motivate people, but how are you encouraging your agents to get out there and do the boring stuff of calling clients and doing the things to get the business going day in and day out when they're frustrated, they feel it's a tough job right now?
Yeah, definitely the last couple 2, 3 years have not nothing's been handed to us, so it has been difficult to keep people engaged and excited about the business. But we have agents that are crushing it. We have lenders that LO partners that are crushing it, and so the transactions. The one thing I always say is there's never been a market where there have been zero transactions. So this is the time where you can capture market share and you can really work on perfecting your business too. The ways that we keep our agents motivated and influenced to continue to do the work, I think honoring those that are doing it, so reward the doers, is common language in our team and brokerage. How we do that is things that agents want. So operational support, whether that means more white glove transaction coordination service. But if you're producing and you're doing the things, we're going to unlock more opportunities. And so whether that's lead flow, and so lead flow might be not necessarily more connections, but the quality of the connection or the price point of the connection might improve. And so continually to improve upon what the agent wants and needs is one aspect of it. I think the other thing that we're intentional about is highlighting those that are doing the thing. And so while you say, we start a lot of our meetings with what we call acts of awesomeness. Acts of awesomeness and highlighting those people that are doing the things are very intentional too, right? And so you're publicly displaying what it is that the behavior you're trying to change or the behavior you're trying to move. I think the other thing that we do well is if something isn't going the right way or the behavior isn't trending in the right direction, is we hold competitions. And so a team of 200 might be hard to run. They become operational lifts to run a competition for 200 agents. What we do is we take small focus groups and we run smaller competitions. So I want to take the 4 to 5 because we have you have those great agents that are going to win every single competition. But I'm going to take a mini group and go, all right, these are the 4 to 5 I really want to be intentional with and change the behavior and also build deeper relationship and deeper connection with. And I'm going to be able to build in my LO partner on that as well too. So let's all come together as a mini team here and let's get these 4 to 5 people moving. And they can also see some real reward from it. So if you do this many dials and have this many conversations and you're at the top, we're doing a competition for X. If you do this, this, and this, and so they feel the reward. And we do that once a month. So we pick a small group, we're intentional about it. So there's 12 competitions in a year, but they're much easier to facilitate. And then we do 2 big competitions for the team every year. But it's a mini competition every month. We look at it and we go, these are the ones we want to influence the most. These are the ones that are important to us. This is the emerging talent. This is the ones that need a nudge in the right direction. They just may need a little boost from us. And those are the ones we focus on.
Hey, George, I love that term, acts of awesomeness. And I've, interviewed a lot of leaders and it had some protocols internally. And so it's not a bit uncommon where we've hey, let's start a meeting with a win, what's working best, or let's start a meeting with gratitude. But you're starting a meeting with acts of awesomeness, which I like that a lot. Give me some examples of what is an act of awesomeness in your world.
I'll remind my leadership before our all company meeting, which is, most agents coming on virtually. I'll be like, hey, don't forget to come with a great, act of awesomeness. Or I also continue to build your stable of stories. If you're an agent, that means client stories you're sharing online, big wins, right, that you can share. And so you're always trying to think of what is my stable of stories. And for my team leaders and my sales drivers, that is those agents they're displaying the behaviors that we're trying to encourage, right? And so if it's during the time of a competition that we're encouraging better conversations or we're encouraging open houses, that's what we're asking you to highlight. If we had this kid, Jackson Bleeker, 21 years old, they have to, as they come into our team, they're like a level 1 agent. Level 1 is the prove it to me phase, do these activities in order to unlock the next set of opportunities. And our goal is for them to, add some SOI, do some open houses, and so they can unlock company lead flow, company generated leads. And this kid, he did 44 open houses in 30 days, right? And end up getting 6 transactions from it, brand new licensees in a year. And those are the stories that we're asking them to come with. What do we display as a key behavior that leads to success, whether you're a level 1 or a level 4 agent. I want to see that variety too for my team leaders. It's like, okay, so those other level 1s that aren't doing it, see that it's possible, right? Hey, here are the activities, here are the behaviors you need to be doing, and here's examples of it actually working out there, right? So go do this. We promise you it works.
Love, 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 love that. I hope everybody in the mortgage space, what are your go-to stories? I used to call them wow stories. One of the foundations to really starting Mortgage Coach and all the success I've had in life. And it's a value called wow zone. Like if you could just surpass someone's expectations at scale, you will win. And so what are your wow stories that you're telling to realtors? What are the wow stories that you're telling to a first-time home buyer? What are the wow stories you're telling to a first-time seller? What are the wow stories you're telling to someone that's on the fence because they're like, should I buy now or should I wait? So, man, George, this has been incredible. Like, you are awesome. I got a lot of value from this. And I know, Todd, we're in the last 5 minutes of this, so I'll hand it back to you, bro.
Yeah, it's been a lot of fun. I didn't know which direction we were going to go, and I really enjoyed the leadership that you've shared, George. I would encourage you as loan officers to think through what Jackson did, right? In his first 30 days, he did 44 open houses and got 6 transactions. And I like what George said. We show you what's possible. And I think that a lot of you who are sitting here, because I know a lot of the people who are here live, and I know a lot of you who listen to this later on the podcast platforms, you've been in the business for a long time, but I think there's probably your version of 44 open houses that you can do as a loan officer in the next 30 days that'll get you 6 transactions. And my question for you is, first off, what is that for you? Is that going to visit other open houses? Is that, attending a couple of networking events where it's going to be attended by realtors? Is that just picking up the phone and doing what Dave and I are overdue to do, which is another Impact 100 day where we reach out and talk to 100 people? But there's something that you can probably do to change your forward momentum as we head into the end of 2026. So I'd love you to challenge yourself and think through that. George, anything else that you want to kind of close out with, something that you were hoping to mention that we didn't cover?
Oof. No, I don't
Or
think so,
anything
man.
that this community could do for you or introduce? Like, is there introductions you're looking for?
Oh,
What can
yeah,
we do to help
well,
you?
yeah, I mean, we are on the hunt for a chief of staff. We figured that's one of our, and then a head of innovation. So it will sound super fancy. They're not as fancy as they sound, but head of innovation really is looking at each one of our operational components and sitting down with the team members and learning how AI can be integrated into their processes and systems. And so that might be that, recent graduate that has a little bit of AI background. So that's a big one for us. And then chief of staff is just helping myself and my stay more organized and all the challenges these days are generally people challenges. And
Mhm.
so making sure that we're well versed in all of that and support our people.
All right, Dave, what are your final thoughts?
Well, given that he really gave a strong push to open houses, I just did my second interview with Sean Herrero, who's just killing it with open houses. He's going to do 250 million in production this year. He did 120 last year. But why I love this story, and I was going to post it on Monday, but I'll post it today now after hearing what George just said. But it was one of Sean's coaching students who adopted his open house strategy and who's now getting an extra 2 loans a month from doing it. And he's not even working the open house. He's putting the numbers together. And these aren't just typical lender, like here's a picture with options. These are like options that could help sell that home, where like the loan officer understands the dynamic of that home. They understand the types of things that would help sell the home. Could be a seller buy down. Could be a house that's been on the market for a while and the seller would be better off paying $10,000 in closing cost or buying down the rate, and which builders do all the time. So we're talking about mortgage strategies to help realtors sell homes. So my closing thought is do that.
Love it. Deborah.
Well,
I would say one would be a look back on your database hygiene. That was a phrase that George you used, and I think there's so much leakage because we're not consistent with our database. And then a look ahead is where could you in September, October, November, December be intentional of creating those acts of kindness or acts of awesomeness, especially with the holiday season coming up. But like plan for it, be intentional, and track it so then you can share it as a win. And also it feeds the soul confidence that you can do this and it works. So, but you got to track it.
All right, so here's your homework, loan officers. You got to find at least 3. I would encourage to be 5 of your real estate friends to share the link to this recording on Spotify is probably the easiest one because everyone has it. And then you need to tell them this is the kind of relationship that I want to have with you, or maybe they're a team leader and you can say, hey, maybe this is an example of leadership that you can follow. George, it's been a fun ride watching you and Jennifer, and the things that you have built over the years are super impressive. And so I'm just grateful for your friendship, grateful for your leadership, mentorship, and appreciate you. Finally, after all these years, I was smart enough to invite you to share you with our community. So thanks for everything and wish you continued success.
Same, my friend. Thank you guys for having me. It's been awesome. So appreciate y'all.
Take care, everybody.
Thanks,
all right. See y'all next week.